Assalamu alaikum and hello everyone. Welcome to Mathematics with Shahab Yaqub. Now in today's video we are focusing on this pure maths P1 paper. It's for 1 hour. It's a midterm exam and these are the 4 topics from which questions are asked in this particular paper. Also, let me emphasize on the fact that this paper is only for 38 marks. There is an S1 paper which will be coming in the next video. So this particular video is about P1. Now let's look at the first question. So now the first question, it says, show that the equation, this whole thing is the equation, may be expressed in this particular form where A, B, C are constants to be found. Now another way of writing this thing is that it can be expressed in the form of a quadratic equation in terms of sine theta. So this is a quadratic in terms of sine theta where the coefficient of the square term is A, coefficient of sine term is B and the constant term is C. Now the very first thing that I do is that I write sine theta and I denote it by the symbol S, cosine theta I denote it by the symbol C. Now on the left hand side we have to take LCM, so that is naturally the first step. And what happens is that, let me just do a bit of highlighting. That is, this thing goes up, it multiplies with this one, and over here this thing goes up and multiplies with this one. And when you add the terms, the C and the C cancels out, the S and the S adds up, that is 2S. S plus C, S minus C, that's S square minus C square, cross multiply. You have this equation, and now at this particular instant, we use this identity. Sine squared plus cos squared equals to 1. Make cos squared the subject because we want to change everything in terms of sine. And the rest is basic. So now we have a sine squared term, the coefficient is 2. The sine term, the coefficient is -2. The constant term is -1. Hence you find the value of A, B and C. Now this is for 3 marks. So now someone can ask this question, what are these marks for? How are they assigned? So let me just help you out a bit. So I would give 1 mark over here for the LCM. And the second thing would be that getting this thing done. And the last thing would be everything in terms of sine. That's how I would be obtaining these 3 marks. The second part. Now it says, hence solve this equation, the same thing which you have proven, which is exactly this thing, 2 sine square theta minus 2 sine theta minus 1 equals to 0. And we are solving for theta between 0 and 360 degrees. So when we solve this equation, so make sure we should write this range. Theta lies between 0 and 360 degrees inclusive. Now, first of all, the common fallacy that people fall for is that they think that it will be factorized, and I've seen a lot of people thinking that it's a middle term factorization question, which is not the case. It's not factorizable. As you can see, I have used the quadratic formula. So let me write it down. Quadratic formula was needed because it's not factorizable, and even if it was factorizable, I can always use the quadratic formula. So therefore this is x is equals to minus b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac, the whole thing over 2a, provided the equation is of the format ax square plus bx plus c equals to 0. I have made a substitution. X is equals to sine theta. X square is equals to sine square theta. Now I find 2 different values of x, and now here comes the point that a lot of people miss out. So now remember that in P1 or in S1 or any other component, P3, M1, S2, whenever you are rejecting a particular value, state the reason why you are rejecting it. So now this is 1 plus root 3 over 2. Root 3 has a value of 1.732. So 1.732 plus 1 is 2.732 divided by 2. This is naturally greater than 1. What is x? X is sine theta. How can you accept a value of sine theta greater than 1? Because the maximum value of sine is 1. The minimum value is -1. So that is the reason for the rejection. Now you pick up this value. You convert it into decimals. There is a negative sign, sine theta. Sine of any angle is positive in first and second quadrant, but negative in third and fourth quadrant. Let alpha be the basic angle. It's always calculated with a positive ratio, work in 2 decimal places. And over here in the third quadrant, it's 180 plus the basic angle. Fourth quadrant, 360 minus basic angle. Final answer to 1 dp. And since theta is between 0 and 360, we are talking about a full revolution. There is no modification of range. So that's how the first question is done. Second question is about circular measure. It's about pure observation. Circular measure, I would give full points to observation. Okay, one more thing, the marks, that is this 3 marks. So basically, I would put 1 mark for getting this value over here, and then 2 marks over here getting the basic angle and taking care of the quadrants and getting the final answer. So that is how these marks are obtained. Now coming back over here, it says the diagram shows an arc BC of a circle center A, that is A, and that is the arc that is formed. That means this thing is 5 centimeter, that is the radius, this is 5 centimeter, there is an angle theta over here. Find angle BAC in radians. Before I read any further, let theta be the symbol used to denote BAC. Now it says the length of the arc is BC is 4 centimeters. That's stated. This is 5. This is 5. The point D is such that line BD is perpendicular to BA. BD is perpendicular to BA. This is 90 degree. And DC is parallel to BA. DC, where is DC? That is DC is parallel to BA. So that means this is also 90 degrees. Find angle BAC in radians. That's very obvious. S is equals to R theta. This formula for arc length is used, and the unit of this angle theta is radians. So 4 is equals to 5 theta. Theta is 4 over 5. You can leave it as it is. You can convert it into decimal. This is an exact decimal. So now the second part is that find the area of the shaded region BDC. Now before I proceed with this, think about it. This thing is a trapezium, or you can consider it as a rectangle. This is RECT, rectangle, plus a triangle. Now I have labeled this point as M. Don't confuse M with midpoint. This is just a symbol, an alphabet that I've chosen. So now I have this angle. I can use this thing, trigonometry, and let me just get it to the normal size. So this angle is there, which is theta. I have this length. So now the strategy is find this length, so I can find the area of this triangle. If I subtract AM from 5 centimeter, I'll find MB, and then using this, I can find the area of this rectangle because CM will be already known from above. That is the basic knowledge. Then I can add these two. I can find the area of this trapezium, subtract from it the area of the sector. I'll use the formula. Area is half R squared theta, and hence I'll find the area of the shaded region. So strategy is very, very important to obtain these 5 marks. So you have to show every single step. Now that's the way that I have shown. Look over here. What I've done is that I have drawn a triangle. I have labeled the alphabets. I have labeled the angle, which is freshly found. This is the hypotenuse, which is actually the radius of the sector. Using sine, I found CM. Sine of 0.8 is CM over 5. I find the value of CM. So let me highlight this. So let me choose this thing, and that is CM that is found. The next step is finding AM. How do we find AM? You can use cosine because this is adjacent of 0.8. This is opposite. Opposite is associated with sine. Adjacent is associated with cos. And then we know that AM plus MB, that is equals to AB, which is 5. Hence you find MB, which is 1.517. So that is the trigonometry part. The second is the area of this figure. So triangle, that's half into base into height. Half into base into height, that is this much. Area of rectangle, that is MB multiplied with CM. That is MB multiplied with CM, and that is this. The area of the shape ABDC, which is in fact a trapezium if you want to write it, that is equals to 11.6169. I'm working in 4SF. And now the third step, that is area of sector ABC, that is half R squared theta. Theta is in radians. That's how it's written in the formula booklet. That's how you should write it. and it comes out to be an exact 10. And last but not the least step, that is area of the shaded region, which is this area, 11.69 minus 10, which comes out to be 1.69, correct to 3SF. That's how this thing is done. Again, for 5 marks, I think let's go ahead and assign the marks. So let me focus on this thing, the trigonometry part. Let me give it 1 mark over here, 1 mark over here, 1 mark for the whole trapezium, 1 mark for the sector, 1 mark for the final region. So that's how 5 marks are obtained. Coordinate geometry, a very simple topic, but people tend to make mistakes. So don't underestimate anything. 2 points A and B have coordinates such and such respectively. This is -1, 1. And the other one is 3, 4. So you're going right, you're going up. That's how a realistic diagram is drawn. If someone wants to draw the grid in X and Y and then label it, that is also perfectly fine. The line BC is perpendicular to AB. So now first of all, AB, let me get my lines clear. AB is drawn in blue and BC is drawn in green color, as you can see. And it intersects the x-axis at C. So when the line intersects x-axis, therefore y coordinate is 0. So I have written C as small c, comma 0. That is what I've done. So now this thing is drawn and there is one thing missing that I should label. I have worked according to that, but labeling is also a good idea. So now what is the strategy? The strategy is find the gradient of AB, negative reciprocated, you will find the gradient of BC. You can either find the equation of a line when it meets x-axis, y coordinate is 0, you'll find C, or you can use the gradient formula and then you get the answer. Gradient of AB, that is the first step, that is this thing, that is 3/4. Gradient of BC, that is the negative reciprocal. And then we found the equation of this thing that was asked, that is equation of BC. And I think in some other question I have done the other part also, the concept of gradient. Over here I did not. And then line meets this thing, therefore y coordinate is 0. No, I'm not drawing a parabola. So that is how the x coordinate is found. And since they were asking the equation of BC, so therefore this is the natural way of calculating it. If they would have not asked for equation of BC, I would say gradient of BC is coming out to be -4/3. I would use the gradient formula and still I can find the value of C. All good, all clear. Find the distance AC. A is given, C is given, AC. Leave the answer in the exact form. I think this is particularly fine, but they are not asking us in any standard form. But if you want to simplify, it's a good idea. This is the simplified exact form. So I have used the concept of surds, and that is how I found the AC thing. So let me also highlight this. So this is another option, that is the simplified exact form. Now, as far as the marks are concerned, 4 marks. So let's give the marks over here. So I think there is this thing, the equation of a line. So I think 1 mark over here. 1 mark over here, 1 mark for the negative reciprocal, 1 mark for the gradient. So that's how this thing is obtained, and 2 marks for this. So basically, this is just using the formula. That is 1 mark, getting the answer in the exact form, whether simplified or unsimplified. That is the second part. Someone can also write the answer in decimal, 7.071. So 7.07, correct to 3 significant figures. Because yes, they are saying give the answer to 3 decimal places, 7.071. I did not read it. Therefore, this is naturally necessary that you should give the answer in this form. Now, quadratics, a curve has this equation, a line has this equation, k is a constant. Part 1, show that for all the values of the curve, the curve and the line meet. Now, a lot of people, they consider it as a normal question. It's not. It's about show that for all values of k, the curve and line meet. Now, first of all, if I'm interested in curve and line meet, it could meet at 1 point. It could meet at 2 points. In other words, b squared minus 4ac should be greater than or equal to 0. So I should be able to show this. So now what I've done is that first thing, let me write down the first step. So step number 1. that is this thing, that is form a single equation. So step 1, that is we need a single equation, which is by equating the equation of the curve and the equation of a line. And then we write underneath ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. And let me just make the sign a little bit better. So therefore, a comes out to be 2, b comes out to be, I've taken minus common out, 3 plus k, c is 1 minus k squared. And then the second step is that apply the condition. Second step, that is the discriminant thing, b squared minus 4ac. Now at this point, do not insert any inequality. So do not insert any inequality at this point. Why? Because you have to show it, you have to prove it. So now what I've done is that I have written b squared. So this minus is outside. After squaring, it becomes positive. A plus b whole square, you get 3 terms. Be careful with that. Minus sign was there, 4 into 2 into 1, that is minus 8 because of the minus sign, and then this is plus 8k square. Simplify it. And now here comes the long awaited middle term factorization. So this is 3k plus 1 whole square. Now we know that this is a perfect square algebraic expression. Square of anything can either be 0 or positive. It will be 0 when this thing inside the bracket is 0. Therefore, k is minus 1/3. Otherwise, it will be positive. So you can still directly write it. And what you can write is this. It can even be either be 0 or it can be positive. It will never be negative. So it will never be negative. And this concept will be used further on when we'll be doing increasing, decreasing functions of differentiation. So that is part of quadratics and functions and differentiation that will be coming up soon in January. So coming back to this, it can be 0, it can be positive, and that is what the whole objective is. B squared minus 4ac is greater than or equal to 0. Therefore, line meets the curve. So a lot of people, they reached this till this stage and they lost this 1 mark. They said that 3k plus 1 whole square is greater than or equal to 0, and they solve for k. That is incorrect. That is not correct. So now there are 4 marks involved in this. Let me grab a marker. So therefore 1 mark for simplification, 1 mark for applying the condition of b squared minus 4ac, 1 mark for making sure that you explain this thing, and 1 mark for basically proving it. So even if you get this thing can be like 1 mark can be lost if you found everything and then you are not able to connect the dots. So connect the dots. That is very, very necessary in such questions in which you have to show something. This is not the proof thing. This is not an identity. This is like showing by conceptual way. The second part, still the second part is left. So now it says state the value of k for which the line and the curve, for which line is tangent to the curve, and find the coordinates of the point where the line touches the curve. State the value of k. Why? Because you have already proven, let me highlight this. So you have already proven b squared minus 4ac was already there. And this expression is right over here. That is b squared minus 4ac. That's right over here. So just equate it to 0. When you equate it to 0, what do you find? We find the value of k as minus 1/3. Now over here, what I've done is that I have written the equation of the curve. I have written the equation of a line. I have written that one single equation with which we worked. This is for reference purposes. The solution starts from here. So that is the way that the solution starts. So first of all, state the value. So this is 1 mark. Then it says plug in single equation. So this is the quadratic equation that we are getting, which I've written in green. That is the quadratic equation. So once you do this, then you find the value of this thing, which is a is 2 and b is this thing. Now there are 2 approaches. Either I factorize and then I'll find the value of x is 2/3. Or alternatively, I prefer this thing that when b squared minus 4ac equals to 0, because line is tangent to the curve, b squared minus 4ac equals to 0. Therefore, the whole formula reduces to minus b plus minus square root of 0 divided by 2a. What does it become? Minus b over 2a. So I just chose the value of b, I just chose the value of 2, I plugged in this value of k over here, so I get this x coordinate, so that is one more mark. That is how I find the x coordinate, and plug in any one of the two equations, either the line or the curve. I plugged in the curve equation, I get 1 point, and they are asking for the coordinates. So basically this thing is one equation. Getting this plugged in is second equation, a second mark, and then the third mark over here, and then the fourth mark over here. Coordinate geometry, another question. So another question of coordinate geometry, the diagram shows a trapezium. Another trapezium with coordinates such and such. The lines BC and AD are parallel. The two blue lines are parallel. Angle ABC is 90. That is the 90-degree angle. CD is parallel to x-axis. CD is parallel to x-axis. So when a line is parallel to x-axis, what does it mean? It means there is no change in y. This is when line is parallel to x-axis. So if there is no change in y, that means the coordinate of D should be D comma 3h. So this 3h is common, this D is different, this h is different. All good, all clear? Now, what is the strategy? Find by calculation the value of h, find the coordinates of D. Now let's think. First of all, these two are known. I can find the equation of AB, negative reciprocal because of the property of perpendicular lines. I can find the equation of BC. I can either find this equation, find the coordinates of C by plugging in x and y, or I can use this coordinate, and use the gradient formula. I'll find the value of h. Once I find the value of h, this 3h is the y coordinate, and then again using the gradient of BC, I can find this equation and I can find the coordinates of D, or again the gradient formula. That's your choice. So sometimes it's an equation versus a gradient or slope formula. Any which way, one unknown can be found. Now step number 1, that is this. This is B, this is A, that is the gradient of BA. As you can see, it has a negative gradient, which makes common sense because the diagram says so. And then C is h comma 3h, B is 0 comma 2, gradient of AB is negative reciprocal. So let me just highlight this thing. Hold for a second. Let me choose a nice color, a green color. This is the first step. And then we have the second step, that is this thing. Okay. That is the second step. The third step is finding equation of BC, and I found the value of h. That is one way of doing it. Another alternative way, that is using the formula for gradient, and let me just get this line all good, all clear. So that is the alternative way. So this is the alternative way of finding the value of h. The value of h comes out to be 2. In other words, C is h comma 3h. So C is basically 2 comma 6. So the coordinate of C is 2 comma 6. The coordinate of D should be D comma 6. Why? Because since CD is parallel to x-axis, gradient is 0, there is no change in y. So now I've applied the gradient formula and I found the value of D. D comes out to be 7. Therefore, the coordinates of D is 7 comma 6. A lot of people, they took it for granted. That is why I always say, do not underestimate coordinate geometry. It strikes you back. Question number 6 is about trigonometric sketch. Okay, it's only for 2 marks. A lot of people, they just wrote down the answer based upon their concept or something. Maybe they have a great intuition, but it's better that you show your working. Better to show your working. Now, some people, they ask this question, if it's for 2 marks and there are 2 things asked without any working, will they obtain full marks? The answer is yes, because 1 mark for A and 1 mark for B. So yes, you will obtain those marks even without any working. Now, y is equals to a plus b sine x. Sine x, that is 1 cycle in 360 degrees. Coefficient of x is 1. Period is 360 degrees. Maximum occurs at 90 because that is the original graph. The maximum occurs at 90. Now, there is this thing, that this A, that is moving the graph up or down. This B is called the amplitude. Now, what I've done is that the maximum occurs at 90. When x is 0, y is minus 2. When x is 0, y is minus 2. So one point that I have over here, that is 0 and negative 2. And the other point is I can either write down pi by 2 and 1, or I can write down 90 degrees comma 1. So these are the 2 points on which I'll be base my working. So now first of all, let me mark over here. X is 0, y is negative 2. I plug it in, I get a is equals to negative 2. The second thing, maximum value is 1, but this is after shifting 2 units down. So therefore b is 3. That means it should have been 2 units up. So the maximum value was 3. We shift it down, it becomes 2 because of this negative 2. That is one approach. Now for this part, I also have the alternative. What is the alternative? Again, plug in the values. Y is equals to a plus b sine x. A is plugged in as negative 2. We can either use radians, we can either use degrees, because sine of 90 is 1, sine of pi by 2 is 1. Let me write it down. Sine of 90 degrees is 1. Sine of pi by 2 is 1. This is in the degree mode. This is in the radian mode. So when I plug it in, we find the value of b as 3. Yes, the marks are less, but the working was still there. And it's very obvious that you're getting 1 mark for each. Now question number 7, the function g is defined by gx is this much. Now when we were solving this particular paper, we haven't done functions. So what I have done is that I have replaced gx by y. So I have replaced gx by y. That is how I have announced it in class. So y is equals to x minus 3 root x. X is positive. And over here, y is equals to 10. The first part, x minus 3 root x is equals to 10. This is a disguised quadratic equation. This power is 1, this power is half, so therefore it's in a ratio of 2:1. It's a DQE, disguised quadratic equation. So m is equals to smaller of the 2 power, the bigger power is m square. We get this equation, we do middle term factorization, we get 2 values of m, but what is m? M is root x. So root x is 5, root x is negative 2. Both values you are accepting. Now I was a little bit lenient over here. I did not deduct any mark for people who wrote both the answers. But in reality, you should always plug in original equation and check whether the answer is valid or not. And by the way, this thing over here, x is greater than or equal to 0. Both these values are greater than or equal to 0. That's not the issue. The issue was one of the solution is balancing both sides of the equation. The other one is not. Therefore, the only solution is x is equals to 25. The second thing, that is about just the standard form. All these things, this was for function and domain and range, because this is part of the question. So we are just doing the completed square form. Write it in the completed square form. For completed square form, make sure the coefficient of x square is 1. So 2 is taken common out. Minus 6 becomes minus 3. 5 becomes 5 over 2. Write the first 2 terms as it is. First add, then subtract square of half the coefficient of x. What is the coefficient of x? Negative 3. What's half of that? Negative 3 over 2. Rewrite the first 3 terms as a perfect square. Simplify the rest. Sometimes you can simplify, then multiply. You can multiply, then simplify. That's your choice. This 2 does not diminish. This multiplies. It does not disappears into thin air. So it still is there. So this 4 becomes a 2, this 2 disappears, then you write it down, and that is how you write it. Just the format, no need to state the values of A, B and C. And that completes this paper. So now this paper of P1 is completed. What did we learn in this paper? We solved a lot of questions related to quadratics, related to trigonometry, related to coordinate geometry, the straight line part, and related to circular measure. So now out of these 3.5 topics, topic 1, topic 2, topic 3, and this is half of the topic, we made a paper, we solved a paper that was worth 38 marks. So now if someone is aiming for an A in AS level and hence an A star or an A in A2 level overall, that means in this particular paper, they should score at least minimum of 31 marks. That should be there. So that in AS level, you get an A, overall you get an A star. Now it's a very alarming point for someone who is getting half the mark or below. You need to brush up on your basics, because it's not just about practice, it's about basics. If someone obtained, let's say, less than 21 or 20 marks or something like that. So that's all from my side. The S1 paper is on the way. So first, jot down all the questions, all the solutions, focus on the steps. Do not skip anything, and show all your working. So these are the guidelines that you need in order to get an A star in A2 and hence an A in AS level. Stay tuned for more content.